Hi guys, welcome to another Divi theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and we're designandtechtips.com. And we got a fun one for you today. We've created a page. We've got a full background image on the whole page from top to bottom. Something that's not automatically obvious with Divi, but really easy to do nonetheless. And to make it a little bit more interesting, because we've got a big image on the page, in our little rows that we've got going on, I've created a type of frosted background to it, so you can still see the image behind it, but it's a little bit blurred, and we've got a little bit of a white overlay, so it does kind of look a bit like a frosted background. Really interesting, really easy to do. Let me take you through it. Okay, so here we have our page. If I roll down, you can see that we've got a full page image on there. And if you're going to use a full page image, you're going to want to make it reasonable resolution, reasonable size. I think mine's probably 2 megabytes, which is a bit bigger than I normally use. But for a full page image, like I say, you want it to be fairly sharp. And the little sections here, you may have noticed, I've got a kind of frosted background type effect going on. There's a little bit of white in there. But we've also applied a bit of background blur. If you look here, it's blurring out that planet as well as just the white showing over it. Same with that little spacecraft there and here, as you can tell. And that's a really nice effect. We've done that before in previous videos. So let's get started. I'll show you exactly how to do this. I'm going to start a new page. And we'll give our page a name. Call yours what you wish. And we're going to use a Divi builder, obviously. I'm going to build this from scratch today. Now let's just start throwing in a bit of content. I'm going to put a little blur module in the top. I'm going to leave it pretty much as it is. Let's use an icon instead of an image. And I'm just going to pop that one in for time saving. I'm going to pop over to design. Just want to pop everything in the middle, so I'm using the general text here. I'm going to make that text white in a little while, but I'll leave it as it is so you can see it. I also want to make this content as wide as it can be. The blurb module by default is only 550 pixels wide, so still in design we can just go to sizing. There's the 550. I'm going to type in 100%. Make sure you put the percent in there so it takes up all the available space. Let's just add another section. I'm going to fly through adding a bit of content. Then we'll add the background image. Then I'll show you how to actually add the blur effect to your rows if you want to. So again, I'm going to use another regular section. Do it 3 columns. Use a little call to action module. Again, I'm going to leave that just as it is. That background though, we're going to change to black. I'm going to bring the opacity slider down so we can see a bit through it, so it'll go a grey colour. And for anybody who didn't know what I did there, I clicked on the actual colour itself. And this variegated slider is opacity. So you can see through it to the background there. Great, and let's just duplicate that a few times. 2 little boxes there to duplicate. I'm going to hit it twice, drag one over. Doesn't matter, they're all identical. And same again. Great. Let's perhaps just duplicate that row. So we've got 3 more underneath in a different row. Fantastic. And we'll add a new section. And we'll chuck 2 columns in this one perhaps. Let's just use images, that'll be nice and quick. Add whatever images you want. And again, I'm going to duplicate this a few times. So I'm going to click on it. 2 little squares again. I've actually got 4 now. So I'm going to drag one over here. And we'll drag another one over there. And we'll just switch the images out a little bit. Got plenty to choose from here. Switch one out here also. And last but not least, let's switch this one out. Great. Now I think we'll just chuck one more little section in and we'll call it a day on this. Little blue button again for a section. I'm going to make it a regular section. We'll chuck a single column in here. And let's just add perhaps a contact form. There we go. I'm not going to configure it or anything. I'm just going to have it in there just like that. Great. So we now got some content on our page here. And let's say we want to add a full width image to it. Now what I'm going to do now, we'll actually add it to the whole site, but you won't see it. You can still build just as normal on your site. And I'll show you how to get it working. So let's go down to our dashboard. I'm going to go down to Appearance and Customize, or you can go down to Background. That's going to take us to this page right here. If we look in the General Settings, we've got Background. Or we can select an image. And as I mentioned earlier, you want to have a pretty tall image for this with reasonable resolution. Mine's probably a little overkill, and I probably would use a smaller image than this, but it's plenty big enough. 4573 by 8000. I could probably half that for this page, but it'll work for me today. So I'm going to pop that one in. Now you may have noticed there's no difference at all to this page because all these sections have backgrounds by default. So you can throw this in on your existing site and it won't mess up anything that you've got going on there. Once you've got it in there, make sure you publish. And let's go back to our page. Just going to save draft and refresh. Now you won't see any difference initially. Let's just refresh. If I go into my section now, the top section here, as I mentioned before, you can't see any difference there. So don't worry about messing up your site by putting that image in there. I'm going to go into my top section. I'm going to go to background. And although there's no background color in there, it defaults to white. So if you go over and hit the transparent, suddenly we can see our image in the background there. Fantastic. Do the same for all the sections below. And the easiest way to do that is just right click on this existing section. And we'll say extend section styles. And I want it to do all the sections on this page. So I'm going to select this page and hit extend. Bingo. We've now got that full page image in the background there, which is great and exactly what I want. But some of this writing's getting kind of lost in there, especially this. I've got to make it white anyway. So I was going to add a bit of code and we can create a frosted background for our little rows up here. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into one of these rows itself. I'm going to click on it, go into the green tab for the row. In the background, I'm going to give it a white color. But again, I'm going to click on the color field. I'm going to bring that opacity way down. So it's just maybe 25%, something like that. 25, 30%. You do whatever works for you. I think that works for me. Okay, and I'm going to change that writing color to white in a minute so you can see it a bit better. I also want it to have a bit of space, top, bottom, left, and right. So in the design, I'm going to go down to spacing. That's where you always find margin and padding. I'm going to give it 30 pixels all around. Just put it in the 30, hit the chain. It'll do the opposite side, and we'll do the same for left and right also. Just got it a little bit of breathing room there, which is great. Now, we're going to do the same thing rather than having to go through all of these rows and do that. I'm just going to extend these styles to this page, so I'm going to save that. In fact, before I do that, let's actually do the coding, then I can extend it and it'll work on all of those. So I'm going to add a little code module. I'm just going to click on any row. You can put the code module wherever you want. It doesn't take up much real estate. I'm just going to pop mine in the top. Or if you want to, you can put this code in your additional CSS panel. So I'm going to go add a code module. And let's write some CSS code. Okay, we got to do a bit of CSS coding. Don't let that put you off. It's really easy to do. It's just a couple of little lines. I'll put anything I write down below the video too if anybody just wants to copy and paste. But I would recommend that you write it out yourself and get into the habit of writing CSS. It's a fantastic thing to learn, especially if you're creative. It can take your editing skills to the next level, and it'll help you to troubleshoot other elements too, which is absolutely awesome. And we're going to use what they call a backdrop filter today. Now, you may find if you put it in your code module or in your additional CSS, you may flag it. May have a little exclamation come up. That's because it's not widely used, but I've tested it on several browsers and it works absolutely perfectly. And I did this again a year or two ago, and nobody's come back and told me it hasn't worked for them, so it should be absolutely fine. Let's get back to the build. Okay, as we're using CSS, I've got to open some style tags. That's left pointy bracket, the word style, S-T-Y-L-E, and right pointy bracket. Now, I can't put these style tags down below. Any CSS I write here, I will put down below if you just want to copy and paste. But if you're using a code module, you will have to write your own style tags. Well, very easy, as you can see. But as I mentioned, you can put this in the additional CSS panel and you don't need style tags, or in your custom CSS box. And again, you don't need style tags there. So I'm going to create a class name. I'll call it Frosted. Or Frosty, I suppose, will work. Let's open and close some curly brackets. I'm going to use what they call a backdrop filter. And you may find when you put this in, it flags it. But I've checked this on several different browsers, including Brave and Edge and Firefox, and it works absolutely fine. So I'm going to write backdrop, B-A-C-K-D-R-O-P, dash filter, F-I-L-T-E-R, colon. And then the filter we're going to use today is blur. B-L-U-R. B-L-U-R, right at the end, no gap after the R. I'm going to put some rounded brackets. And the higher the pixel value you give it, the more blurred it will be. So I'm going to use about 6. We'll change this up when I've done it. So let's do 6 pixels, just so you can see more or less. But for compatibility, let's put a little semicolon after that. I'm going to add the WebKit version of this, which we'll make sure it'll work on other browsers as well. I'm using Google Chrome here. So I'm going to copy that, Control-C. I'm going to drop down. I'm going to paste it just down below. I'm going to put my cursor just to the left of the B there. I'm going to say dash WebKit, W-E-B-K-I-T, and another dash for compatibility. Now, you won't be seeing anything happening right now because we've not applied it to anything. To make it work on something, we need to give the something that we want it to apply to this Frosty class. So I'm going to copy the Frosty there without the dot. When you apply it, you don't need the dot. Control-C. Let's save our changes here. If I go into this row now, green tab for the row, go over to Advanced. It's always where you find CSS IDs and classes. And I apply this class to this row. Make sure you put it in class and not ID, Frosty. It's actually blurred it out there. I don't know if you can see that too well, but it has actually blurred that out. And I'll demonstrate it a little bit more in a second. We'll up the blur factor. For instance, if I was going to the section itself and do it, look how sharp that image is right there. Let's go into the section. I'm not going to leave it on the section, but if you wanted the whole page to have the blur effect, you could do this. Again, advanced CSS IDs and classes. We'll put that Frosty in there. Watch what happens over here when I do that. It kind of blurs it out a little bit. This whole top section, it's kind of blurred out a little bit. It stops right there. You can see it stop. Like I say, I don't want that on my section. Just wanted to demonstrate that. Actually, while we've got it there, I'll show you the difference if you up the pixels or down the pixels, the difference in the blur value. So let's just save that. I'll leave it on there for the time being. We'll go back into our code module. Now, code modules don't take up much real estate, so if you can't find it, open up your little purple button. Go over to your wireframe mode, little icon on the left there, and you can get to it this way. Once we're in there, we can flip back to desktop mode. If I up these to perhaps 20 pixels, you can see it gets even more blurred there. If I down it to perhaps 2 pixels, it's only just slightly blurred. You can compare the bottom of that tower with the top there. So the more the pixel value, the more blurred it's going to get. I'm going to put that back how it was to 6. I just wanted to show you that. Great. Well, let's save that. We'll take it off of this section here because I don't really want it on the section. But if you do, like I say, you can have it throughout the page here. And let's just sort this blurb module out so we can see it a bit more. I'm going to go in there. Design, image and icon, I'm going to make that white. If we roll down to the text down below, I'm going to make that light in color also. And the body text, same thing. I could have done them both in the general text there. So we got that sort of frosted background on that. If you wanted to take that white down a bit in color, you could do. Let's get it exactly right, then we'll just extend it to the rest of this page and it'll be job done. So if we go back into this row, I think I can take that white down just a little bit opacity wise, a little bit more. Something like that, I think. That'll work for me. Okay, and we've already given it padding all around. If you wanted to give it slightly rounded corners or something, we could go over to design, border radius. Give it 10 pixels. Got slightly rounded corners there. That's quite a nice little effect. Well, I think I'm happy with that. When you're happy with it, you can just save it. You don't have to go and do all the rest of your rows. We can do what we did earlier. Click on the row. Right click on the little green tab there. Extend row styles. And I want it every row on this page. Let's hit extend. And there we have it. It's applied it to all of our rows on this page. We look down and check. Perfect. Just what I wanted. So let's save draft, make sure everything's going to work on the front end. And exit the visual builder. And there we have it. We've got our full page background image there, with our frosted rows on top that you can see through. That blur effect is giving it a really nice effect of blurring off and softening that background image rather than just having an overlay on top. And of course, anything else on this site that you want to do, if you put this in the additional CSS panel, just need to apply that class to. Fantastic. Just exactly what I wanted. Well, there we have it. There's how to add a full page background image to your little website there and add a little frosted glass type background effect to the rows within that. And we also covered, as you could see, extending modules so you don't have to redo everything each way, so you've got everything common all the way down. So I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. If you have, please ring the bell, give it a thumbs up, comment. It's always great to hear from you. Share and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you have enjoyed this today and want to learn a bit more about CSS coding, have a look at our CSS playlist. It should pop up over there any minute now. It's really easy to do. Most of it's copy and paste too. I've written all the code for you, so nothing to it. So once again, this has been Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.